Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Next Level Broadcasting Show. I am Eric Hoffman. We got Charles Strail from behind the desk join us out here in a chair this evening.
Cheers, everybody. Yeah, glad I could finally come out from behind the shadows.
Yeah. Got Jared Stamen, my main man, to my side as always. We got Zach going to run production for us tonight. Thank you for giving us all the great stuff behind the counter. And so, again, thank you for joining us this week. We've got a jam-packed show for you.
Jam-packed.
We are going to dip our toes into last week's games and get a little bit of college football, some Detroit Lions, a little bit of Tiger talk, and then we're going to immerse ourselves into Week 8's high school football games. But right now, let's get into last week's games. And first up on the docket, Elk Rapids and Tawas met, and we had Christian Swinzicki and crew down there. And we're just going to let Christian take over these highlights while you watch them. So enjoy, and we'll see you in a second.
Fourth and 5. To the right. That's Flutie. Flutie juking. Flutie to the end zone. Touchdown, Elks. Flutie to the left. He had the touchdown. Yep. He has the 2-point conversion. It's going to be a rollout to the right. Trammell throws it. He's got a man. That's number 34. Touchdown, Brody Turner. Kick is up, and it's blocked.
Yeah, great work.
Smith over the middle. Intercepted. That's Turner.
Brody Turner taking it to the 1.
A little bit of early movement there.
I thought I saw something too,
but it works out in Elks' favor. Elks make it a 3-score lead, second and short. 20 seconds to go in the half. Quick throw.
That's in there, baby.
Touchdown.
Yes, sir.
Connor Carlisle. We'll get clarification on his number later. Smith back to throw. Throws a bomb. Has a man. Caught. Got green grass in front of him. That's Truman Bush. Touchdown, Braves. What a throw from Smith to Bush for 6. First and goal. Cannon up the middle. Touchdown, Elks. Mason Cannon going to be a keeper. And he's got room. That's Cannon up the middle. Cannon's gone. Cannon, it wasn't a keeper. It was a handoff. Cannon at the 16-yard line. Flutie in motion. Flutie's going to get on the right. He's got speed to cut back. He's very tough to tackle. Flutie to the corner. Dives. Touchdown. Elks. Trammell. Hands it right off up the middle. That's to Flutie. He has the 2-point conversion, making this a 40-point game.
And I love me some Christian Swinzicki. Man, he does a great job.
Isn't he great on the mic? I mean, if you're watching that game from Elk Rapids, we thought it would be an injustice if we didn't allow you to listen in to Christian Swinzicki's highlights there because, you know, who better to commentate that game than who was right there when that game was live? And Elk Rapids really put it on Tawas.
Yeah, and nice to see from Elk Rapids. Again, a kind of an up-and-down season for them, and, you know, not sure when the offense is going to show up because they've had signs of greatness and signs where you've wondered if they were going to show up. So nice to see them put some points on the board going into a nice matchup, and we'll get into that later on. Right now, we'll move on to our next game. Jared, you and I were up on top of the booth there in Harbor Springs watching a fun football game, dealing with some of the elements also. You know, I almost pulled a Mary Poppins and flew away with the 10 at one point. But
so glad you didn't end up in Kansas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we held things together and,
Sure
again,
did.
had an entertaining football game at the same time.
Yeah, it was really a great game. We'll put the highlights on here in a second, but really impressive by both squads there. EJ ends up coming up with the win, but it was really pretty close. I mean, at halftime, the game, I believe, was a 1-score game. East Jordan was on top, and then what happens? Rams get the ball at after half. They go down, score some points. But first, before we get there, we're going to talk. Wyatt Penny made a fantastic play. He's third in a country mile.
Yeah, and slid
But
underneath
still.
the receiver there. He did a great job there on the defense.
I really want to give some credit to him. He's, mostly the kick return guy, wide receiver as well, but they're making a great play in the secondary. One of the highlights so far of the season for him, for sure. And that's Thaddeus Cousins, second-year quarterback. Maybe next time you want to throw that one away, but Max Beal punches it in right there. Max Beal had a get-right game after last week, only rushing for about 30 yards. I don't even know what his total yards was, but total yards for sure over 100 passing. He's kind of like their CMC, their running back, catch back. He can do it all.
Yeah, we weren't quite sure what we were going to get out of this game. As you see, Harbor Springs with an equaling score, I believe it was the quarterback taking it in, Cousins himself. Yeah. And you get a nice run here. I think this was Webb taking it himself in from, 20 yards out or so to give East Jordan the lead again. But the interesting thing as we're watching these highlights is Harbor Springs actually, after they tied it up, or when they were down one score, actually got the ball back, I think around EJ's 30-yard line with a chance to possibly tie up the score, but ended up with 3, I believe, straight penalty calls marching them backwards and ended up not being able to do anything with it. And then East Jordan ended up punching it in once again, as I think we're going to see that right here, to come up with the final score of 30-14.
Yeah, it was really a resilient effort by the Rams. Historically, over the last couple years, they've struggled to get just in the win column, period. I think going into the season, it was 21 straight losses.
Yeah, I believe so.
But this year, they came in 3-3, very respectable, and they put up a good fight against an East Jordan team, which, if they can finish out Week 8 and Week 9, are going to be in the playoffs. So congratulations for the Rams. Even though they didn't win, a lot to build forward to, but Red Devils taking care of business, winning on the road. Can't complain.
Well, and again, for Harbor Springs, before we let them go for now, they have 2 games left on their schedule that are winnable games. So the fact that they've gone 21 straight without a win and possibly end up with a winning season this year says a lot about the new coaching staff and the new morale around the program as well.
Yeah, I think it was just an overall positive game for East Jordan. We talked about it last week during the podcast that the Red Devils needed to get back on track after going through the meat grinder portion of their schedule, where they had played Mansalona, they had played Kalkaska, they had played Mount Pleasant, Sacred Heart, they played Glen Lake. They had some really challenging slugfest, grinded out kind of games in that stretch. Now they got Harbor Springs. Now this week they got a game against Frankfurt. We'll jump into that later on in the show, so don't worry. But for now, let's keep it moving here with the highlights from last week.
Yeah, we'll move into Tom Clemenson's crew. They're with Gaylord St. Mary's taking on Breckenridge, and we were wondering. This was a game. We were wondering what we were going to get, and we always talk about every week if Gaylord St. Mary's is going to run into an opponent worthy of competition before they run into the Lakes at the end of the season. And sure enough, as we get the highlights going and have Tom take over the microphone for these as well.
And it's going to be a keeper again as O'Connell finds some room up the middle. Shakes one loose, and he's in the end zone. Dureski, and it's O'Connell who's loose and in the, he's all the way in the end zone. There's a touchdown for Nathan O'Connell, his second one. Corbett's going to keep that one. He's going to look for the right side. Tripped up, but he's able to stay on his feet. Finally drugged down, but not before he gets it inside the end zone for a Breckenridge Huskies touchdown. Little trickeration going on here with the extra point attempt. And they're going to do a sideways snap. That was an interesting play. Initially looked like blitz. They're going to sit back into coverage here. Going to be over the top. That's Saul. And he's loose, and boy is he loose, down the right sideline, and he's going all the way for the touchdown. Yes, he's got that fade route. It's in the corner. Circles up, but he can't make the play. Touchdown, St. Mary. Corbin now, he's looking to pass, but he's flushed out of the pocket. He's got an open man, and that's Chapin again, who's going to take it to the house. That's Logan Greenier going up the middle. And he's loose, and there he goes down the left sideline. Greenier's got it all the way into the end zone. They got to get 3. Bear trying to get to the backfield. Wide open man down the seam, and Breckenridge able to take advantage of the blitz. It's going to be Logan Greenier trying. No, it's O'Connell coming around the right side, and he's hit but fumbled the ball. And it goes right into the hands of a Breckenridge defender. It's going to be a handoff, and he's got a little bit of room and some blocking, and he's going to get himself into the end zone for a touchdown. No, that's going to be a bad snap. And it looks like Breckenridge is going to scoop and score on that high snap, and they're going to take it to the house. All the way down for the touchdown, and that is most likely going to seal it.
Thank you, Tom and crew, for that great job there. And so St. Mary's drops a game, one that we didn't think would happen. And you got any thoughts going into the rest of the season before they run into possibly a conference showdown with Inland Lakes?
So they got a really big game versus Inland Lakes. That's week 9, but you can't overlook the fact that they have a game to play tomorrow night versus Holton. Actually, that game's Saturday at noon. We'll make that correction here for everybody looking to watch. That game will be Saturday at noon on the nextlevelbroadcasting.net and family of networks. But I think for Gaylord St. Mary, one of the keys that they need to do is they need to come out and execute. They had some very, very uncharacteristic coverage breakdowns in that game versus Breckenridge, and I think you saw it there in the highlight clips that we were able to showcase. Some of those defensive backs got caught peeking into the backfield on some of those hard play-action run fakes that Breckenridge was going and showcasing in that game. And when you get caught peeking in the backfield, especially when you do bring some pressure, it exposes you on the back end to give up those big plays. And St. Mary, well, they gave up some of those big home run balls to Breckenridge last week. But with all that being said, Gaylord St. Mary still had an opportunity to win that game. They were down by 6 points with the ball on the Breckenridge 9 when they had that bad snap fumble, scoop and score by Breckenridge that put it out of reach, made it a 10-point ball game. Do want to give our heartfelt sympathy and just making sure that we want the family of Cash Weitzel to know that
Absolutely.
we were tuning in and just making sure that he's doing well. We don't have an official update to give on him, but we just want him and his family and all the other supporters of him, along with that Gaylord St. Mary program, to know that we're praying for you, bud, and we're wishing you a speedy recovery after a scary injury scene on one of the last plays of that game. Actually turned out to be the last play of the game because they ceased playing the game after Cash was carted off the field and went to the hospital for urgent medical attention. So want to let you know that we're praying for you, Cash, and wishing you a speedy recovery for your senior year. It's a tough injury to have, and we hope that you get an opportunity to potentially see the field once more this year if the Snowbirds can make an extended playoff run.
And on that note, let's move on to our next game. Charles, you believe had to rent a vehicle and take a large crew all the way down to Pontiac to watch St. Francis Gladiators take on Pontiac Notre Dame Prep.
Yeah, I did, and I actually rented a Chrysler to go to Pontiac. So, I mean, for everybody here that's from the 90s, you'll get that one. Jared doesn't get it. But let's take a look at these highlights here between the Fighting Irish of Pontiac Notre Dame Prep and the Gladiators of Traverse City St. Francis. We thought coming in that this game would be an absolute shootout. And here it is. This is a 59-yard touchdown pass on the first play or first series. That's Brody Sink. You're going to hear me call his name quite a lot. He had 3 touchdowns in this game, 1 2-point conversion. This is Braxton Lisinski taking it in. The Gladiators answer back, and you can see right now, not even halfway through the first quarter, we got a shootout on our hands.
Every time I checked in, it seemed like there was a score.
There's Brody Sink again, and this is not a replay. This is another play that they hit for a deep, deep touchdown pass. Here comes Cooper Sellers. Whoop! Look at that. Nice camera work by our crew from Southeast Michigan to showcase that. Yeah. Cooper Sellers gets in for 6. We're 13-12. Gladiator special teams had some issues. There is a touchdown for the Irish, and then the Irish once again putting another one on the board. Gladiators found themselves down by 15 points here. Here's Cooper Sellers on a corner route, and he's going to take this one in. Gladiators answer back. It's 20-27, and here come the Irish. Another great pass by Sam Stowe, the Irish quarterback. He was lighting it up. Here's a run off of right tackle. This was Braxton Lisinski, puts the Gladiators back up. They're down by 8 points going into halftime. They do not get the 2-point conversion. And then here's a long touchdown run. Lisinski is going to get dragged down at the 1, but I think he actually got in. Our crew does a good job, and I think he got.
That was wow.
Zach, can we bring that one back one more time, Zach? I think Braxton's in on this play as you see it from our sideline camera operator. Obviously, the referee's not able to keep up with the speed of Braxton Lisinski. I mean, you see him right there. He's in a trot.
Not enough hitching that giddy up there.
What's that?
Not enough hitching that giddy up there.
Yeah. Tyler Endress does plunge it in and complete the touchdown on like a half-yard quarterback sneak. But Sam Stowe and the Irish punch back, and it was just too much Irish offense, and the Gladiators hit a nice little pass here. This is Tyler Thompson down the sideline again, putting it on the board for the Gladiators and made it 38-7. to 49 at this point in time. So they were down by 11, but on the very next play, the Irish pop a huge play. This is Liperato, and he just absolutely did his thing. And the Irish, just too much offense. The Gladiators do strike back and just more Irish highlights. So overall, you see the final 38-63. It was much closer than what the score indicated. I mean, you saw the highlights. It was punch, counter punch, punch, counter punch, pretty much all night long. 8-point game going into halftime. And then the Irish, just too much offensive firepower for the Gladiators, and that team just they couldn't keep returning the serve.
You know, I'd asked for what your one big takeaway is, but we're going to save that for a little bit later in the show. We've got one more game to cover still before we move on. Charlevoix got it on with the Ironmen of Mansalona. Charles, you want to lead into this one?
Yeah, this was another slobber knocker, just total slugfest of a game. I mean, not so much of a shootout per se, but this was a good old-fashioned Northern Michigan slugfest between two schools that are pretty familiar with one another.
They just love to put hat on hat.
Exactly, and this is exactly what it was, because Mansalona would take a lead deep into the fourth quarter. As you see them score here late in the first quarter. And Jared, you saw Mansalona last week, very formidable offense, but Charlevoix right here not letting them get that 2-point conversion. Mansalona wants to get out to those early leads. Charlevoix would then answer back later on in the game. As you see Ian Moran plunge in, and then the extra point is good, but whoosh, right come the Ironmen just like that. They come right down, put it on the board just before halftime, and it would take Charlevoix stopping them on another 2-point try. This would have been huge if Mansalona is able to convert that, but unable to. That goal line defense for the Raiders on these 2-point attempts, really good. Here's a squib kick.
Oh, wow, yeah, that was...
Let's take this one back one more time, Zach, because maybe this is a little play that the Ironmen took out of the page of the Red Devils playbook, Jared.
It does look like some East Jordan right there.
Very, very familiar, but the Raiders somehow get the ball back, and they're going to swing this one out in the flat. This is Carter Greenacre making a couple of men miss, getting dragged down inside the 10-yard line. Greenacre had a nice game as he continues to flash as a sophomore. This is Garrison Sterrett working around the right side, doing a nice job. And then, yeah, just too much Raider offensive firepower. Excuse me, that was Garrison Sterrett there. And for the Raiders, they're going to take this one 15-12 in a really, really grind
pitch
out
pass
kind
there.
of game. Yeah, pitch pass for
nice
the
haul in,
2-point
too.
conversion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good time to call that play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do believe that near the end of the game, Mansalona was driving towards the end. I think they actually turned the ball over. If I was watching some of that game, I think near the end, looked like the Ironmen had a chance to go down and respond, have a nice, icing touchdown. But Charlevoix Raiders defense holds up, and you saw that final 15-12. Charlevoix remains undefeated.
Well, what I'd like to do is get all of our opinions or our one big takeaway on all 5 of the schools that we carry. But first, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll get into that along with some college football, and we'll see what other trouble we can get into after we take a short break here and pay a couple of bills. Stay tuned. We'll see you in a couple.
With unique gifts, home accessories, wedding items, and so much more, the Lake House on Bridge Street offers so many things to make your home or even your visit to Charlevoix that much more special. When you want beautiful items that reflect Charlevoix the beautiful, stop in or visit them online at thelakehouseCharlevoix.com for your own keepsake and your own personal of Charlevoix.